welcome back, everyone. I'm here again with Fiona McGlynn, a Year 3 apprenticeship student at Asheville Vedic Astrology.com, the apprenticeship program there. Today, we're continuing with our Planets of Each Ascendant video series, and we're going to be looking at Venus for a Scorpio Ascendant. And for a Scorpio Ascendant, what we see is that we're going to have Venus ruling the 7th house and the 12th house. And this is going to tell us something very important about how Venus functions for a Scorpio Ascendant. We're also going to consider the fact that Venus is exalted in the 5th house for a Scorpio Ascendant and debilitated in the 11th house for a Scorpio Ascendant. Okay, so welcome back, Fiona. It's good to have you again.
Thanks, Ryan.
Okay, well, as you know, we're going to be talking about Venus for a Scorpio Ascendant. So what I'd like to know first off is when we think about Venus for Scorpio, the fact that it rules the 7th and the 12th house, what are the immediate insights that you have related to Venus in this regard?
Okay, so Venus is ruling the 7th and the 12th. The 7th is an angle, but the 12th we would consider to be perhaps not a great combination here with the 7th. So Venus is a little tricky for a Scorpio ascendant and would generally be considered inauspicious. Mm-hmm. There's a few really meaty themes here for a Scorpio. One is this beautiful thing of Venus, the planet of beauty, and the 7th, so possibly attracting partners who are beautiful. Mm-hmm. And especially, historically, theoretically, that heterosexual male chart would be seeing the partner as feminine with Venus ruling that house, so could definitely have a beautiful spouse, and that's in Taurus, right, as well, so very beautiful. But the little Achilles heel here with it is that the 12th house represents many things, but can represent the secret bed pleasures or secrets taking place in those relations, so can be quite a complicated combination. This planet doing the same things means that I guess there's a few scenarios, there is definitely the devotion to the spouse potential because of that Taurus, beautiful Venus energy. But then there's also this perhaps having secrets from the spouse or being attracted to other beautiful people as well as the spouse, and things happening, either the person perhaps having different liaisons or the spouse having different liaisons because they've got the 12th house causing losses to the spouse. So it depends which way it's going to work there. So, and Venus is such a planet of pleasure and indulgence and luxuries. And so I think it's a slippery combination.
Right. And, one of the things I've often noticed about Scorpio ascendants is essentially what you said, that oftentimes there's difficulty with relationships due to either not being able to be satisfied with one's
insatiable
partner,
yeah,
or also the partner might not be satisfied with them. And if we think about this for a Scorpio ascendant, we have Venus ruling the 7th and the 12th, which is losses, clandestine relationships, hidden things. So when we think about Scorpios as being kind of like secretive and hidden when it comes to other people, this is why that we see that. Also, when we think about Scorpios as being like overly sexualized, or we often kind of bring that up when we think about, the Scorpio ascendant, but it's mainly because Venus rules the 7th and the 12th house. It's not because it's Scorpio by itself, it's because Venus, the sign of partners and the sign of luxury and sexuality, rules the 7th and 12th. And if we see from the opposite side of that, for a Scorpio ascendant, the partner is ruled over by Taurus. And in that situation, we have the exact same thing. We have then Mars, the partner from Taurus, also ruling the 7th and the 12th houses. So
good point.
Yeah, we get this double emphasis towards possible difficulties and losses and extremes within relationships and not being satisfied within relationships. However, that is the imbalanced or the unbalanced part of Scorpio ascendant. Because when a Scorpio ascendant has a strong sense of devotion and commitment to their partner, They're not just caught up in their hormones. They're not caught up in trying to stimulate their senses through other people or because they're bored. They're able to go very deep and to be very committed and to have very long-lasting relationships. But the key there is developing that capacity of Venus, which is devotion through thick and through thin, devotion in illness and in health. All these things that we think about related to long-term lasting marriages, they're not necessarily so popular these days when you can just trade in your partner. But for a Scorpio ascendant, what we see is if they're able to commit and have that devotion, then they really are able to burn through a lot of karma without jumping around from one partner to the next. And the goal is to burn through that karma such that they can let go of attachment, 12th house things, let go of attachment to partnerships so that they can start directing their energy more inward towards their inner life, you see. So there's a real interesting kind of thread and theme for a Scorpio ascendant, and it's not just all about sex. That's really probably the lowest manifestation of a Scorpio ascendant that it's easy to get caught up in because our culture likes to be dramatic in that regard too. But anyway, that's one thing to consider when we think about the 7th and 12th rulership when it comes to relationships for Scorpio ascendant.
Yeah, I really hear that brahmacharya idea that you're speaking of there, like actually using that power and being responsible about it to burn through the karma and be released. So, yeah.
Right.
And so then can we pick up now the exaltation and debilitation points?
Yeah. And this is also, it ties very well into this whole idea, this sort of blueprint of Venus for a Scorpio ascendant, because what do we see? But we have Venus ruling the 7th and the 12th being exalted in the 5th, okay, being exalted in the 5th, and it's being debilitated in the 11th, which shows us that devotion of Venus, that love and that commitment and that ability to make choices lead to higher fulfillment are meant to be directed towards providing a healthy environment for children, and also that's your children for the Scorpio ascendant because it's ruling the 5th. But for the partner, it will also be for their children too. But what that's showing is that the Scorpio is meant to be devoted towards helping their partner achieve their own goals. So when you find a Scorpio ascendant who's utterly devoted to their partner and who doesn't say things like, well, I want to do this and I want to go here and I want to, live my dreams. When the Scorpio ascendant says, hey, I love you and I want to support you in what you want to do in your creativity. I want to help you achieve your dreams so that you can also burn out this karma so that we can sort of transcend this life together. That is why Venus is exalted in the 5th house for a Scorpio ascendant. And then the debilitation aspect of it, we see the 7th and the 12th debilitated in the 11th from the Scorpio ascendant, which again puts this emphasis on that if the person is seeking out the fulfillment of their own dreams, if the person is seeking out their own luxury, if the person is seeking out their own fulfillment of their own desires, really, that more of a selfish thing, that's going to work like a debilitated Venus for them.
That's right.
What I'm trying to say?
Yeah, it does. It does. I think that the 5th house points you've made are really interesting. And are you partly also there counting the partners' houses as well?
Yes. You
just articulate that just a little bit more.
Right. So, when we looked at the exaltation position, we were seeing that Venus was exalted in the 11th from the partner's house.
Yes, right. Yes.
Venus is debilitated in the 5th from the partner's house. So that's where we get a little bit of a contrariness there, because then that makes it sound like the Scorpio ascendant is not meant to be attentive to the partner's children. But that's not going to be true, because if you're having children together, your children are going to be your partner's children. So what we have to do is really zone in on the fact that it's the relationship of the Scorpio ascendant to the other person that gives this kind of expression. So yes. we're not going and reading the chart from the 7th house. So we have to be very careful, because this is a tricky it's a tricky business when we start trying to kind of put those kinds of things together. But it works if you stop and if you really see that the focus there from the Scorpio ascendant is on supporting the partner's goals, supporting the partner's life achievements. And that will also help the Scorpio ascendant, but the emphasis is not on the emphasis is not on sort of perpetuating one's own desires. It's a really, Scorpio ascendant is can be a very self-sacrificing sign when it comes to relationships. But the key is letting go. The relationship is about burning attachment to the relationship. So as good things arise, you support it, you enjoy it, you let it pass. If difficulties come, you don't say, oh, well, I'm bored here. I'm a Scorpio, so therefore, I should probably go get another partner anyway, because that's what everyone thinks. It's more when a difficulty arises for the Scorpio ascendant, that Scorpio ascendant says, no, I'm going to be here for you until the end, until the very end, because that's how the relationship karma is actually burnt out, such that Scorpio ascendant can go deep within itself. Because remember, sign 8 is about going deep within oneself, finding one's own true psychological strength, which is not dependent upon a partner's psychological strength. In a way, the Scorpio has to be strong themselves for their partner. So it's a really interesting sign. I think one that has been popularized very incorrectly, in modern astrology.
Yeah. I think those are all really add depth and color to the Scorpio. And I think my simple way of contextualizing it all is for the Scorpio to keep the focus on the legacy. What is the legacy that I want to build and pass on is what keeps working on the marriage and on the children and on when things get difficult. And we know that Scorpios have this enormous capacity to solve problems and to struggle and overcome these things. So I think it's empowered to do that for sure.
Right. And if you think about it, if we think about the 7th Lord being debilitated in the 11th, the 7th Lord debilitated in the 11th, that's like when you have a partner that says, help me fulfill my dreams, right? Yeah. And for a Scorpio ascendant, that's not the way it's supposed to go, right? It's not the way it's supposed to go. The Scorpio ascendant is not meant to have the other person fulfill their dreams, okay? That would act like a debilitated Venus in the 11th house.
Yeah, powerful.
If we take it, when we think about, for example, for a Taurus ascendant, the 7th Lord is exalted in the 9th. So remember, Taurus is directly opposite of Scorpio, so it acts like the 7th Lord rulership. So having the 7th Lord from a Taurus ascendant exalted in the 9th, again shows that the partner for a Taurus ascendant is meant to support the Taurus ascendant's dharma, because that Mars is exalted in the 9th. Do you follow what I'm saying here?
I do. It's just it's really beautiful harmony. I love it.
Right.
Yeah.
And
nice.
you can take it further and further. There's all kinds of things that you can think about in this regard, but this is a real basic understanding of trying to see how Venus is meant to function for a Scorpio ascendant. And as we see, it's not really that Venus is meant to function for the Scorpio ascendant. It's really a Scorpio ascendant is meant to function for the Venus.
Yeah. I think it's a great turnaround, and we are knocking this Marika killer reputation of Venus on the head.
Well,
it's a gift, right? It's a gift. If you can see the spiritual path or the blueprint that's there, what a great teacher.
Right, and that's a very important thing to remember, and it's probably good to talk about now with Scorpio and Venus is, for example, when Swami Shri Yukteswar, the teacher of Paramahansa Yogananda, who is a Kriya Yoga teacher, but also a Vedic astrologer, when he discussed the mythology of the Adam and Eve story in the Bible, he describes that Adam and Eve were the symbolic first human beings, and they were meant to experience this world, but they were not meant to get involved in touch sensation. And that's why sex is symbolized as this kind of idea of touch sensation. And so what this kind of illustrates is, with the Scorpio ascendant, the most oversexed probably of all of the astrological signs, it's really showing that our culture has it pretty backwards, and that a Scorpio ascendant has a profound ability, if they can tap into it, to kind of reverse that energy and to, rather than be caught up in all the difficulties and mire of human desire, they're able to kind of withdraw it and really birth themselves into a pretty profound spiritual mentality if they can practice brahmacharya, as you said, that idea of conserving your resources, not necessarily celibacy, although that's part of it, can be part of it, but not wasting one's time, not wasting one's energy, not being selfish, really. So
great.
Anyway.
Love it. Fantastic.
Yeah. Any final thoughts on Venus? And I know I talked a lot in that one. Any final thoughts?
No, that's great. I've got plenty of thoughts to take away, but I'm really happy that we've opened up that Venus perspective. So yeah, great.
Okay, great. Well, let's go ahead and thank you for being here, and you'll stick around for Mercury, right?
Yep, I'll be here for Mercury.
Okay, great. So we'll do that next. Thanks a lot.